the kittens first to explore outside. They're starting to toddle pretty well. They're going back in here in a minute, but they're pretty excited about being outdoors. I think the chickens are very curious. You coming to see what these little guys are all about?
Hey folks, Ariel over here, Fineth, out under our lean-to. It's almost 40 today, so it looks like it might be the warmest day of the week. This video is for those of you guys who enjoy watching the little kittens. This little fella is maybe the most adventurous of them all. Anyway, they've been in the shop obviously most of their lives so far, but they do seem to be enjoying exploring some, so where it was actually above freezing today, figured we would let them do a little bit of that outside because it looks like, come here little one, come here, you're too fast already. Looks like about half the week is supposed to be snowing and pretty cold again, so I thought it'd be fun for them to be outside and get a little fresh air while they had a chance to. So I just have some thoughts about kittens while they play. Burley is supervising, even though I told him to stay still so they could actually explore. And so is their mom. What do you guys think of this? Anyway, I know again, a bunch of you guys have just been enjoying watching all the baby things grow as they do. And some people are very appalled that we would have kittens here. So I think a lot of that comes from people with good intentions who maybe haven't thought through something. So I just have some thoughts to think about. If you still disagree with me, that's fine. But for the people who are just appalled that anyone would ever have a kitten, ever, this is, I know, you just want some snuggles, because everyone wants to pet your kittens. Yeah, shall we just snuggle Mama for a bit? We have had Velcro for, she's almost exactly 2 years old now. Of course, we didn't have her the first couple months of her life. She wasn't born here. And she has been a wonderful, wonderful mama cat. These kittens were not at all born accidentally. They were very much all wanted and claimed before they were ever even conceived. I do understand, believe it or not, how male and female cats work. That's why Velcro was almost 2 years old before she had a litter of kittens. It just kept them separated and kept her indoors when she's been in heat, because I wanted her to have a, yeah, you can snuggle them, just don't move around too fast because you're so big you could accidentally squish one. Hey, lay down. Lay down. Yeah, they've come right up to you, I know, but they're okay. They're allowed to explore. All right, little bit. You want to come snuggle with Mama too? Which is why she was able to, fully mature before having a litter of kittens. And we would like a couple more cats. It's actually fairly difficult in our area to find a healthy kitten. I know people are going to, or, cat, period. I know there are people who are going to say that there's way too many cats in shelters, and I think we could all agree, all of us probably think that the goal is to have, cats or dogs or whatever born into places and situations where they are loved and wanted and cared about and so on. The fact is, I know your little claws are a little bit scratchy when you climb, that at this point, and there will probably always, I'm quite sure, be a need for, some animals that have lost their homes due to whatever circumstances to be adopted, much like there will probably always be a need for some children to be adopted. But at this point in this country, in the States, there has been so much of a push that nobody should ever on purpose raise a healthy dog or cat, that it's a little bit unfortunate. There's over 1 million animals imported to the States every year just to feed the shelter industry at this point. Many people may not be aware of that. You can look that up. There's major news articles, NPR, etc., covered that in the past. But there's simply not enough dogs or cats being born to satisfy the amount of people who would like to have a dog or cat. Now, we value our cats here because they are rodent patrol. I know, are people who think that a cat should never be outside because they do kill some birds. That is true. They kill some birds. I've seen these guys successfully get one bird in the past 2 years. We also have more birds around the property than before we moved here and started planting trees, planting more food, more cover, more shelter, etc. But the reason we have cats is for rodent patrol, because, as you may or may not know, rodents are a fairly big, and you're adorable, problem with, this is mice, rats. Fortunately, we don't have, gophers, moles, pocket gophers, voles, all those little munchy critters. At least one statistic I read said rodents destroy almost 20%, so that'd be 1/5 of all the food in the world, not just this country, in the world every year, either by directly eating it, eating like the grains or whatever, eating the plants and killing them, which we've had a problem with before in the garden, hence our raised beds, or by getting into where something is stored and peeing all over it and otherwise making it inedible. So 20% of all the food produced in the world being lost to rodents is a fairly big deal. So that is one of the reasons maybe there should be more cats in the world. And we love our birds, and we feed birds. We plant more trees for more shelter for them. The bird feeder is in a spot where the cats cannot sneak up on it. Like I said, in 2 years we've only seen a cat catch one bird, and they were inside the chicken barn where they didn't belong anyway, so that wasn't something I was concerned about. Anyway, so they do a valuable service for us, and we very much enjoy having them around. Of course, they're also wonderful, and Velcro is very snuggly. Zipper, not so much. He likes his ears rubbed and nothing else. The kittens are very active in between their naps these days. Good boy. So they're doing a very valuable service for us. We wanted a few more cats. Velcro is a very, very friendly cat, obviously, and has been a wonderful mother. And my brother has been wanting a couple kittens to raise for the same rodent patrol around his cabin, and so he wanted a few. And again, this was before she ever got pregnant. So we've got 4 kittens here. The plan is, I believe, we're going to have 2, and he's going to have 2 once they grow up big enough to be away from their mama. And I do have a friend who has a young daughter that they're thinking about getting a cat at their place. If they decide they really, really want one, I suppose we could spare one, but I believe we're going to keep 2 of these. We haven't decided who yet. I'm going to kind of see what their personalities turn out like as they continue to grow and so on. So these are all already have homes before they were ever born or conceived, like I said. I think you might be my favorite color, little Mr. Stripey. Yeah, you might be. And a couple other things I think people maybe should think about. There are places in the country where there are, that snow melting and falling off snow piles, where there are more animals than there are homes for them. There are organizations, including one in this area, that fly animals around the country from those places, which tend to mostly be in the south, which kind of makes sense to me because of the weather, to places and import them to places like this, where there are not a lot of animals. Because, as you may be able to tell if you've watched many of the videos around here for long with our weather, it would be very difficult. I doubt she would have been able to successfully raise this litter of kittens had she just been outside on her own with no human attention or a human heated building, etc. So there are almost never, not never, but very, very few accidental, unplanned batches of babies that appear in cold parts of the world, at least parts this cold, because they just simply don't survive. Also, there are, be gentle, he can snuggle with you. Good boy. Yeah, I know, just lay down. I know, you want to snuzzle them. I know. But they want to run around and play. They do. And, hey. Lay down. Good boy. Good boy. I know it's hard to have self-control. I know you just want to play with everybody. I know it's very difficult. Very, very. now I've lost my train of thought. Oh, so there are just, it's very difficult for unplanned, unwanted, uncared for baby things to be born in this part of the world. So that is just for the most part not an issue here. I had to search for quite a while to find both zipper and Velcro because finding a kitten that somebody does not want to be able to raise is a bit difficult. But we are glad we have both of them. We're glad we have these little guys. I don't know which two will stay here. A bunch of people have asked, in addition to the ones who said, how dare you not have all your animals spayed and neutered. Are we planning to, spay her now? I would be open at some point to doing a tube tie if we could find any vet who knew how to do that. There's, sadly, in this country, that's very difficult to find, just because vet schools pretty much only teach full organ removal, which, again, I think a lot of people have good intentions, but they haven't really. Oh, I'm not ignoring you. I'm petting you. I'm petting you. Haven't thought through the implications of that. If I told you that Clay and I want to have children because we think children are sweet, but as soon as they're born, we're definitely going to, if they're a boy, we're going to remove their testicles because we like children, but when they get a little bit bigger, they lay down. Good boy. When they get a little bigger, then their voices start to change, and they want to go gallivanting around the countryside and finding girls, and then they move out, and you just don't have your cute little boy anymore. Most people would consider that a little bit weird or sick. Or if I told you that, just because I didn't want my children to ever have a chance to break their arms or legs, because that's painful, and it can happen. Children often break an arm or leg. Yeah, you're the most clawy. You can get down and run around. That, when they were a week old, we just amputated their limbs because this is the best thing for them, we feel. They, then they can never have that pain of going through having a broken arm or leg. You would probably also think that was weird and maybe even criminal. There are countries in which amputating organs, healthy organs out of an animal is considered animal abuse and illegal. Of course, there are times when something is wrong. There are times when, if I had a serious leg infection, maybe I would choose to have my leg amputated rather than lose my life. But that doesn't mean I think amputating healthy limbs is a good idea. And there are people who will point out, oh, well, the cat will be better off in the long run, or the dog, or whatever, because they can't possibly get ovarian cancer or something. Well, no, you can't get cancer in a organ you no longer have because someone chopped it out and threw it away, just like you can't break your arm if somebody has amputated your arm. But I think those people are often not aware, would be my guess, of all the studies showing actual, longevity is higher in healthy, intact animals versus not, which kind of makes sense because we probably all know, I have a friend who's a good bit older than me, but she had a full hysterectomy, a female friend, not a female human friend, not a cat, who had a full hysterectomy at a pretty young age because she had some very serious health complications. But it has given her it did resolve those, but it's given her a different set of health complications for the rest of her life. And most of us would understand that there are, other complications that come along with removing some of those organs, because it seems like medicine is just starting to really grasp what all some of those hormones do, but they're far more than just governing reproductive stuff. These hormones govern things like, your sleep cycles, even bone growth, which is why a lot of, especially bigger breed dogs, if they're fixed at a very young age, end up with so many joint problems because there's nothing regulating when, properly those bones need to start and stop growing at the joints. Anyway, there's a whole host of issues that you may or may not be aware of. And so we do not choose to cut organs out of otherwise healthy animals. Like I said, at some point we would be, we very much want these kittens, but if we feel like we have more than enough animals for our wants or anybody that we know of, then I would definitely consider something like a tube tie, which leaves all the organs and their other functions intact and simply prevents another pregnancy. I have not yet successfully found any vet in the area capable. You're getting fast. of doing such an operation. It's actually a simpler operation, of course, but just most vets aren't trained in doing them. Anyway, so that's some thoughts. So think about if you're one of the people who feels very strongly that no one should ever have baby animals. Like I said, I think most of that is coming from people with good intentions, and we all agree that it would be ideal if all baby things are raised in loving and caring, healthy places where they are desired. But in pursuing that goal, have you considered whether the only animals you think ever deserve to be born should only be unwanted, uncared for, unloved ones? Like I said, I think it's highly likely that forever there will probably be a need for new homes for some animals who do not have good ones, especially in certain places. But that doesn't mean I think it would be good that nobody ever intentionally, purposefully, carefully, healthily raises new animals. And it makes me a little bit sad, to be honest, that so many people seem incapable of even enjoying the adorable baby things as they grow because of their horror and fear. Somebody told me that cats' lives are so precious that if we let a cat have kittens, it makes them all worthless. And so that's a terrible thing. That's a little bit of a weird perspective to me, that somebody would think that because something that's so precious is born, that now they're all worthless. And I find that kind of sad. And I think a lot of things, currently the culture around us is just full of, again, something I think a lot of people haven't thought through, but a celebration of maybe not death, but lack of life. That it's better to have everybody and everything infertile. It is bad to have new life. That's a pretty new perspective in the history of the world. Good, healthy reproduction is a normal part of any healthy species, and if you cannot have a baby and you're female, then that does happen, and I have other friends for whom that is true. But it does mean something's wrong. A normal, healthy person or cat or whatever would be able to reproduce, and the complete devaluing of health and reproduction and fertility. Normally it was considered sad and unfortunate if something could not ever get pregnant and create new life. That's just kind of sad to me, and I'm sure that some of you are going to disagree with my thoughts on that. But if you do, just think about, do you really think that the only baby, dogs or cats are where I mostly see this kind of reaction? Do you think the only ones that should ever be allowed to be born are ones that are unwanted and uncared for, and no one should ever purposely raise healthy babies? Are you aware that over 1 million animals are imported into this country every year just to feed the shelter industry, because there are actually not enough cats and dogs being raised carefully and lovingly on purpose to provide enough cats and dogs for the people who would like to have a cat or a dog, whether it's just a pet or whether it's a homestead animal, whether it's both like ours. We love them as pets, and they also all have jobs. Bertley's, one of his main jobs is sky patrol, keeping all the hawks and everything away from our yard. These guys' main job is rodent patrol, and so on. And are you aware of the actual health implications of chopping out healthy organs out of an animal, especially at a very, very young age, when it is going to affect their growth, their development, their joint health? And I know I've read articles that are like, well, if you don't do it, then they're not, a good house pet. A female will go into heat. Somebody described that as, being raped. I think if you look up the definition of rape, there's a willing consent part to that. I've never seen a cat in heat, just personally, that was not most willingly consenting. This little lady is very much a female cat, and when she is in heat, she would be happy to get bred by anything. Another cat, a person petting her, a burley, anything. So I know there are people who think they're doing their animal a kindness by not allowing them to do any of the normal reproductive things, but I guess to me, I think if you don't if you don't want a cat that is going to go into heat, if you don't want a tom that is eventually going to want to go looking for ladies, if you do not want a cat that will sometimes yowl, that will mature, that may spray on things in your house, etc., possibly what you want is not a cat. Maybe consider a gerbil or something that doesn't act like a cat, and maybe it would be more fair to let cats actually be cats instead of trying to modify their behavior through fairly drastic surgical means to turn them into something that then makes a kind of permanent infantilized house pet. Anyway, if you still have thought through all of that and still disagree with me, then we just disagree. But anyway, that's some of my thoughts. We are loving watching these little guys grow, and it'll be fun to see them as they continue to mature. And they are growing fast. Mama is taking some nice long breaks away from them because they are a good bit of work. She loves them very dearly. As you can tell, if Ellen lets out the littlest squeak, she's concerned about them, but she's also like, I think I'm just going to come up here and snuggle, and they're going to be fine on their own for a bit, which they are. They're just starting to share some of her food. We feed our animals mostly a raw diet, so raw meats and organs and bones and whole fish, and been throwing in some raw eggs, trying to make sure she's got plenty of really, really great nutrition as her body's working overtime to feed these little guys. So some raw eggs, and we got some raw whole milk from a neighboring dairy for her, even though that's not something Clay and I drink much of. And the little guys are just starting to share some of her food, though they're mostly still nursing. Anyway, they're probably going to be worn out here shortly and want to go back in their snuggly bed. But that's some thoughts on our kittens and how they're growing. See you guys next time.
And if you just enjoy watching kittens like I do, I thought I'd stick in a little extra footage here. I love when they're all sleepy and have their eyes only half open and snuggle up with each other and yawn and pile up in piles that makes it look like you can't tell which parts belong to which kitten, and twitch in their sleep. It makes me wonder what they are dreaming about in their little brains, running after something or catching or chasing or playing. I have no idea, but I really enjoy watching them, so I thought some of you guys may as well. Amazingly, I still have gotten some other things done around our place, but it would be pretty easy to just sit and watch these guys all day long, every day, probably for several months on end. So hopefully you guys enjoy some kitten adorableness as well. And if you stuck with the video this long, I'm assuming that maybe means you also enjoy cats and kittens. So here you go. Today probably was their one chance to be outside for a little while because we're supposed to get snow off and on and some very cold temperatures back in the single digits and such for most of the next week. So it was fun to get to have them outside in the sun for just a little bit today.
Chickens are pretty interested in these little guys. What do you ladies think of them? Is that a little bit scary? Zipper's been pretty interested in them now that they're walking. When they were still just snuggling and nursing, he didn't seem to care one way or the other. But now he's giving them kisses and cleaning their faces and snuffling them and supervising them. I'm not sure what he thinks of these new little ones running around.
We hope you enjoyed it.
Come back next time for more adventures.
Thanks for watching.